Imagine you're sitting at a poker table. You've memorized the math.
Mm-hmm.
You've studied the probabilities.
Right. You're playing a theoretically perfect textbook strategy.
Exactly. You are, without a doubt, the smartest person in the room. And you just lost $400 to a guy wearing sunglasses indoors who, I mean, barely knows the rules of the game.
It is an incredibly humbling experience, but more than that, it exposes this massive flaw in how we're taught to navigate the world. We just love the idea of a solved system,
Right.
where inputting the perfect behavior guarantees a successful outcome.
Right. But then you step into the real world, and suddenly the person sitting across from you hasn't read the rule book.
They don't even know there is a rule book.
Exactly. So today, we are taking a deep dive into a single, just utterly fascinating source. On the surface, it's a comprehensive manifesto and sales page for a poker trading tool. It's called RangeFlowAI Master Cash Game Poker. But I want to make this clear right out of the gate. While we are talking about cards today, this source material is really about a profoundly universal problem. It's about the absolute chaos of trying to make perfect decisions in a totally imperfect world.
That's spot on. And our mission for today's deep dive is to explore how the developers behind RangeFlow AI set out to prove this mathematically. They analyzed this massive data set. We're talking over 4 million real cash game hands.
4 million. That is just wow.
Yeah, and they did it to demonstrate that playing by the correct theoretical rules can, paradoxically, be the single biggest mistake you can make.
And for you listening right now, whether you're actually playing cards or you're negotiating a business deal or honestly just trying to navigate unpredictable people in your daily life, this deep dive is going to fundamentally challenge the assumption that being the smartest, most textbook perfect person in the room is always a winning strategy.
Because honestly, often it's not. To understand how RangeFlow AI approaches this, we first have to look at the specific failure of modern poker strategy that they are trying to solve here.
Right.
The source text makes this fascinating central argument. It says that average thinking players, like the ones who study, who read the books, who really try to play perfectly, are actually losing money specifically because of their advanced knowledge.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because, I mean, it sounds completely backwards. How does knowing the right play actually make you lose money?
It comes down to a concept in modern poker known as GTO, or game theory optimal play.
Right.
The idea is to play so perfectly, mathematically speaking, that you literally cannot be exploited by your opponent over the long run. It's an unassailable defensive strategy.
Okay, sounds great in theory.
In theory, yes. The problem, as the source points out, is that these thinking players are making GTO-approved plays against opponents who don't even know what those letters stand for.
Yes. The imagery they use in the source material for this frustrating experience is just painfully vivid. They describe sitting down for a session feeling really sharp.
Yeah, you're in the zone.
Exactly. You're playing your ranges perfectly, making the textbook decisions, and then some guy who, in their words, doesn't know a C-bet from a doorbell just completely ruins your night.
It happens all the time.
Wait, actually, let me stop right there. Before we get into what the guy does, what is a C-bet? Let's make sure we aren't losing anyone who doesn't play.
Oh, right. Great point. A C-bet is short for a continuation bet. It just means that if you were the aggressor before the community cards were dealt.
Like you raise the stakes pre-flop.
Exactly. You continue that aggression by betting again on the flop, regardless of whether those community cards actually helped your hand. It's just a standard expected move in modern poker.
Got it. Okay, so you're playing against a guy who doesn't even know basic concepts like a C-bet, and suddenly this guy shoves $400 into a tiny $80 pot on the final card, the river. And he's holding absolutely nothing but third pair.
A completely terrible hand.
A garbage hand. And what do? You fold the winning hand. Because according to the math, according to GTO, he shouldn't be making that massive bet unless he has a monster hand.
Right, you're giving him credit for a logical, mathematically sound strategy that he simply does not possess.
It is exactly like meticulously following a GPS route that tells you to drive straight into a lake.
Yes.
You are so focused on the digital map, on the theoretically correct route, that you are completely ignoring the reality of the water right in front of your windshield. You're letting the theory blind you to the messy reality of the situation, and you're just yelling at the dashboard while your car sinks.
What's fascinating here is that the source explicitly calls this bringing a chess strategy to a game of checkers.
Oh, I love that.
Right. You sit down to play chess, you're anticipating grandmaster moves, and your opponent just starts jumping your pieces diagonally.
Just chaos.
Complete chaos. You get mad because they aren't playing the right way, but the painful irony is that your correct play is actually the wrong play for that specific environment.
And the craziest part is that these opponents aren't some evil geniuses. They aren't exploiting you on purpose. The source points out that they are just playing their game, but their reckless, chaotic style naturally and perfectly punishes the exact textbook plays you've spent months learning.
Which really forces a massive shift in perspective. If the theoretical manuals are causing you to drive into the lake, well, how do you train for the chaos? You can't just read a book on unpredictable behavior.
Right, because it's unpredictable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this brings us to the hard data. The creators of RangeFlowAI realized they had to abandon pure theory. So they built their tool on a dataset of 4 million real cash game hands.
4 million? That's a lot of data.
It's massive. And it's not simulations, not academic models.
Yeah.
Actual flawed humans making decisions with real money under pressure.
And that data revealed something incredible. It uncovered 47 specific, predictable mistakes that the average player makes over and over again.
Yeah, the patterns are undeniable.
The source uses a very specific, slightly derogatory term for the players making these mistakes. They call them a donk.
A classic poker term.
Right. They define a donk as a reckless player making low-quality decisions who eventually just donates their money to the table, usually loudly and confidently. And the entire goal of this tool is to turn you, the user, into a donk hunter.
It's a complete shift from playing defensively to playing offensively. Instead of asking, am I making the theoretically unexploitable play, a donk hunter asks, how is this specific opponent giving their money away, and how do I position myself to take it?
Yep. And the statistics they pulled from those 4 million hands to back this up are just wild. Let's look at the actual behaviors they found in the player pool.
Yeah.
So, example, they found that 67% of players overfold to triple barrels on scary runouts.
Which is a massive vulnerability.
Wait, time out. For those of us who don't spend our weekends grinding in Vegas, translate triple barrel and scary runout. What exactly is happening in this scenario?
Right, let's break that down. A triple barrel is when a player bets aggressively on every single opportunity, the flop, the turn, and the final card, the river.
So it's the ultimate sustained bluff.
Exactly. Just relentless pressure. Now, a scary runout means the community cards that are dealt look incredibly dangerous. Like suddenly there are 4 cards of the same suit on the board, making a flush very likely for someone.
Okay, so why are 67% of players folding too much in that specific spot?
Because of the psychology of compounding fear. When the board looks terrifying and the opponent never stops betting, the average player's psychological resolve simply breaks.
They just panic.
Yeah, they assume the worst-case scenario and fold even when they have a statistically decent hand. RangeFlowAI's data shows that if you just keep the pressure on 2/3 of the time, the opponent's fear will do the work for you.
Wow. Okay, here's another one from their data. 73% of recreational players will call a bet too wide on the flop, but then they fold far too much on the turn. Unpack that one for us.
Well, calling wide means they are staying in the hand with very weak cards, just kind of hoping to get lucky.
Like holding a 2 and a 7 and praying.
Pretty much. The behavioral psychology here is optimism bias. On the flop, those first 3 community cards, human beings are naturally hopeful. They think, maybe the next card will save me.
Right, always chasing the miracle.
Exactly. But when the turn card comes and it doesn't help them, the sunk cost reality sets in. Their optimism evaporates, and they suddenly fold way more often than the math says they should.
So you let them pay for their optimism on the flop, and then you just steal the pot on the turn when reality hits them. That is brilliant. Okay, what about this one? 81% of aggro or aggressive players completely shut down when facing a check raise on a paired board. I have to challenge this.
Oh.
Yeah, the really aggressive players, the table bullies, they don't just back down, do they?
They absolutely do, and the math proves it. Let's translate the terms first, though. A check raise is a deceptive trap. You pretend weakness by checking, letting the aggressive player bet, and then you suddenly wizen the back.
Springing the trap.
Exactly. And a paired board means 2 cards of the same rank are on the table, like 2 kings.
So why does that specific combination paralyze the bully?
Because an aggressive player relies on instilling fear to win pots. But when the board pairs, the mathematical probability of someone having a hidden monster hand like three of a kind goes way up.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so when you check raise them on that scary board, you are suddenly punching the bully right in the mouth. The data shows 81% of the time, the bully gets scared and abandons the hand.
It's the exact same psychology as a loud, demanding corporate negotiator who suddenly goes completely quiet when the CEO walks into the room.
That is a perfect analogy.
They only thrive when they are the scariest thing in the environment.
Right. Take that away and they fold.
That makes so much sense. One more stat from the source. 58% of the entire field misplays 3-bet pots when they are out of position. What is a 3-bet pot and why does position matter so much here?
A 3-bet pot means the stakes were raised and then someone raised again before the flop. So it's a very expensive high-tension pot. Being out of position means you have to act first on every single betting round.
Oof.
Yeah, it is a massive disadvantage because you have to make your decisions without seeing what your opponent does first. It's like having to name your price in a negotiation before the other guy even opens his mouth.
So why do almost 60% of players misplay it?
Ego. Players hate backing down from a re-raise, so they stubbornly stay in the hand. But because they have to act first, they are flying blind. They lack the information advantage, and under the stress of a big pot, they make highly predictable defensive errors.
Here's where it gets really interesting. When I first read that list of exactly 47 mistakes, my immediate reaction was to push back.
Yeah, it sounds a bit neat, right?
Exactly. I thought, come on, is this just a clever marketing gimmick? Slapping a specific odd number like 47 on a website makes it sound highly authoritative. I kept wondering if this is a genuine taxonomy of human error or just a really good sales hook.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is actually a profound lesson in behavioral economics. What the data from those 4 million hands proves is that humans do not act randomly.
We just like to think we do.
Exactly. We desperately like to think we are unpredictable, especially in a game of deception like poker, but we aren't. We fail in highly predictable, measurable patterns.
We think we are James Bond, but we're actually just algorithms with a pulse.
That's exactly it. When we are scared, we react the same way. When we are overly confident, we overextend in the exact same way. The 47 mistakes aren't just poker trivia. They are a literal map of human psychological leaks under pressure.
Okay, I love that framing. But knowing the psychology, knowing that 81% of aggressive players shut down in that specific scenario is one thing. Actually using that information when you are staring down a real person at a casino is completely different.
Oh, totally different.
So how does RangeFlowAI claim to actually change a player's real-time behavior?
Yeah.
Because reading a list of behavioral stats won't save you when the chips are literally flying.
That is exactly the gap the platform is trying to bridge. It's not designed to be a static textbook.
Huh?
The source material outlines an active 24/7 AI coach.
Okay, how does that work?
It includes features like street-by-street coaching, which analyzes your decisions at every stage of the hand, and something called click-to-reveal opponent ranges.
That click-to-reveal feature sounds incredible. The source explains that after a hand, you can click on an opponent's action, and the AI will estimate what cards they were likely holding. And it actually adjusts that estimate based on their table position, their player type, and how deep their chip stack is. It's like negotiating for a car and having a financial auditor sitting next to you who can instantly reveal the salesman's absolute bottom line price. It completely removes the fog of war.
It does. And to practice using this clarity, they built an interactive drill mode. They also have a newly introduced multiplayer simulator. You can actually invite a friend who, by the way, gets to play for free for 72 hours to sit across from you in a digital simulation and get real-time coaching together.
And they highlight some specific user results that are honestly hard to ignore. They mention a player named Mike R., who used the data to realize he was over-folding on rivers by 23%.
A massive leak.
Right. He fixed that one single leak, just one of the 47, and added $1,400 a month to his winnings. Another user, Sarah K., used that exact triple barrel statistic we mentioned earlier to confidently move up to higher stakes in just 60 days.
It's all about plugging the leaks systematically. But you had a reservation about this training process earlier, didn't you?
I did. I really question the psychological jump from a digital drill mode to a high-pressure, real money table. I mean, Clicking buttons on a beautifully designed AI simulator in your living room with a cup of coffee is easy.
Sure.
Does that actually stop your hands from sweating when a maniac shoves 400 real, hard-earned dollars into the pot in real life? The adrenaline alone makes you forget everything you've studied.
That is a very valid critique of any training software. But the source material addresses this head-on. They state that the entire goal of these interactive drills is to make the correct plays automatic under pressure.
Muscle memory.
Yes, exactly. They aren't just teaching you a concept. They are trying to build deep muscle memory.
Like a flight simulator for pilots. You don't want to be reading the manual for the first time when the engine catches on fire.
Precisely. The idea is that through sheer repetition in the simulator, recognizing the pattern becomes a reflex. When the adrenaline hits in the casino and your higher cognitive functions start to shut down, you don't have to consciously overthink.
Your brain just takes over.
Right. Your brain recognizes the pattern. This is mistake number 14. The aggressive player is trapped on a paired board, and you just execute the exploit automatically.
You're lowering the cognitive load required in the moment of stress. Okay, that makes sense. So let's talk about the economics of this, because the bold financial claims and the intense urgency of their sales pitch are impossible to ignore.
They really lean into the math here.
They do. They break down the cost of these mistakes in a really compelling way using something they call EV.
Yes, EV stands for expected value. In statistics, it's the theoretical average outcome of a decision over time. They calculate that every time a player makes one of these 47 mistakes, whether it's underbluffing, overfolding, letting ego get in the way, it costs them between $20 and over $100 in negative EV.
And their pitch is that you are probably making several of these mistakes every single session you play. So the math they present is that if you fix just 3 or 4 leaks, you save maybe $100 to $300 in lost expected value per session.
And it compounds.
Exactly. If you play 3 times a week, that is $1,200 to $3,600 a month you are saving, just by not doing the stupid things you are currently doing.
Which they use to heavily anchor the price of their product. They value all the features, the AI coaching, the 4 million hand database, the pool analytics, at $1,000 a month. They compare it to the $500 hourly rates of human poker coaches.
But they aren't charging $1,000.
No, they are selling the tool for $27 a month or $270 a year. They claim it is a 97% discount off its real-world value.
And to remove the risk, they offer Fix Your Leaks, or its free guarantee. They challenge you to take a 7-day free trial, and if you don't find at least 5 specific leaks costing you real money, you cancel and pay nothing. But then they introduce this warning, and this warning completely fascinated me.
Oh, the shrinking edge.
Yes, they explicitly warn you that the value of this data is actually decreasing over time.
Yeah, they state quite plainly that as more of the player pool learns these 47 exploits, the advantage naturally shrinks.
So what does this all mean? Because it creates this incredible philosophical paradox right in the middle of their marketing. Think about it. The tool's entire premise relies on exploiting unaware players, the donks. But if you are selling this tool to everyone on the internet, aren't you going to ruin the very ecosystem you're trying to exploit?
That's the paradox.
It feels like an arms race, where the weapon gets cheaper and more accessible, but becomes less and less effective the more people buy it.
This raises an important question, and what is so brilliant about the source material is that it freely admits this. They aren't hiding the paradox, they are weaponizing it.
That's great.
The text literally says, the value of this data decreases over time, the edges shrink. They are using a transparent admission of their own product's inevitable decline in effectiveness to create massive time-sensitive urgency.
It is brilliant marketing. They're basically saying, yes, this window of opportunity is closing specifically because of us. Are you going to get in and make the money before your opponents buy the software and use it on you?
Exactly.
It turns the purchase into an act of self-defense as much as an offensive strategy.
It creates a scenario where every single session you play without the data feels like you are willingly leaving money on the table for someone else to collect. As a psychological lever to drive sales, it's incredibly potent.
It really is. It weaponizes the fear of missing out perfectly. Yeah. So to bring this all together for you listening, the core lesson of this deep dive goes so far beyond poker. Whether you are sitting at a green zelt table, or you are in a boardroom negotiating a salary, or just dealing with the unpredictable nature of illogical human beings in your daily life, clinging to a perfect theoretical strategy is a losing game if you refuse to adapt to reality.
You have to adapt.
Right. You cannot play a theoretical game of chess if the person across from you is happily jumping your pieces in a messy game of checkers. You have to play the opponent in front of you with all their predictable human mistakes.
And that leaves us with one final thought to mull over. If tools like RangeFlowAI are successful in training everyone to play this maximum profit exploitative style, if they successfully educate all the donks and eliminate these 47 common behavioral mistakes from the ecosystem, does the game eventually circle all the way back to being perfectly mathematically solved? Only now it exists at a newly elevated hyper-paranoid baseline where everyone is just constantly trying to exploit the exploiters.
A boardroom or a poker table full of people who all know exactly what the others are doing, all staring at each other, waiting for a mistake that will never come. It's a terrifying thought. Suddenly, driving into that lake doesn't seem like the worst option.